Hey, it's Phil from Seattle House Mafia, coming to you from Seattle, Washington. If you saw my most recent studio mix, you probably noticed I was playing on two CDJ 3000s, which are new to me and I love them. And this mixer, this is the Ecler Warm2 2-channel rotary mixer. For those of you that don't know, Ecler is a company based out of Spain. They've been involved in the DJ market in one way or another since like the mid 90s. However, they kind of disappeared in 2010 and hadn't put any new offerings out until just 2022, which was this. My experience with Ecler was always super limited. I played on a couple, I think I played on their 4-channel at one venue, and then a couple of times on one of their 2-channel more battle-focused mixers. I had turntablist buddies that were big fans of Ecler because for the price point, the sound quality was always solid according to them, and the reliability was always good. I frankly don't remember, besides just kind of rolling up and doing my set. They always seemed fine, but never on my radar. I just didn't have any context for what Ecler did and what they were about. And then from a rotary mixer standpoint, I've always been curious. Again, I think I've only played on a rotary mixer 5 times in my DJ career. It was always a surprise that it was the mixer that I showed up to play on because it was on some big name DJ's rider and I was the opening act. And they were both Rains. So I got to play on the Rain 2016 and the Rain 2015, both beautiful mixers. One's a 4-channel all-in-one, the 2015, and then the 2016 is that full, gorgeous, rack-mounted. It's reminiscent of the Yuri, if you know anything about the legacy mixers from back in the day. But that was it. 5 times. I enjoyed it, but I never had a chance to really dig into a rotary mixer on my own time and explore it. And then when I started doing research, because it started to sound appealing over the last couple of years, I should look at getting a rotary mixer just to change things up a little bit. I've been a Pioneer guy forever. Right now I'm running the 900 Nexus 2. I started looking at pricing for rotary mixers, and they were, starting anywhere from $3,000 to 10 grand, right? And the one, for instance, that I really fell in love with was the Lucia. It's a company named Condesa. So Condesa Lucia X, it's a company based out of Australia. They're handmade, top of the line internals. Nobody has anything bad to say about them. Apparently sound quality and feel is just top notch, but it's also $4,500, right? So for a guy like me who's played on a rotary mixer 5 times and not really sure if that form factor was for me, I just couldn't justify jumping into spending that kind of money only to be disappointed or it not work with my workflow, right? I always assumed it would work for my workflow because if you watch how I mix, I do mix primarily with the lines unless I'm playing open format or hip hop. I usually use the lines, I rarely touch the crossfader, and then I'll use the EQs to bring tracks in and out. So it would make sense that the rotary thing would work for me, and it absolutely does. But, that was a risk with that kind of money. Out the door, this thing was $600. So it just kind of, it took me over the line, right? I was debating getting a rotary mixer. I was doing all this research. I was finding all these boutique rotary mixers that seemed amazing, but they were also super expensive. So what I like about this thing, first off, is the price point. The sound is awesome. Like I said, I have a 900 Nexus 2. This is definitely warmer. I mean, it doesn't blow me away, the difference, but there's definitely a different sound to it. I run Mackie SRM 450s in my studio, which, as you guys know, they were industry standard forever in DJ booths, and they're a little bit tingy and a little bit wispy. This handles some of that, takes some of that out, and just warms things up. So my Mackies actually sound better. Again, it's not a crazy difference, but it's a noticeable difference. The other thing I really like about this is the DJ friendly layout. A lot of the boutique rotaries you'll see that they took kind of creative license with how they place the EQs. Sometimes they don't even have 3-band EQs. Sometimes they're 2-band EQs. Sometimes on some of these expensive boutiques, it's just a low pass and a high pass and the line knob, which I just can't get my head around playing on that. I'm sure I could figure it out, but not really interested. And this is very reminiscent of any DJ mixer you're going to jump on today. The fundamental difference being a rotary knob versus a line fader, right? So you have the wet dry, low, mid, highs, trims, you know, booth, house. So great, really friendly layout. The other thing they did that I thought was really nice is they have these full isolation kills for the master channel. And again, a lot of these boutique rotary mixers, they'll have the ISOs up here, they'll have the ISOs on the side, but I just love where they put them on here. So you have the lines, you can play with the ISOs, everything's in very close proximity. And then, I won't bore you here, but lots of ins and outs. You have your standard XLR outs. There's no digital in. This is a fully analog mixer. So with those CDJ 3000s, for instance, you're gonna be using RCAs. So you may lose a little something in that you know, going from a really high-end digital device to analog, but again, I don't notice it. And it's, you know, it's just plug and play. And actually I would say the contrast between those really high-end mixed media players like the CDJ 3000s and then going to a very straightforward analog experience, I just enjoy that. I enjoy that contrast between those, you know, that high tech to kind of, I don't want to call this low tech, but let's call it low tech, right? A couple of things that I wasn't very hot on initially when I started playing with this mixer, but I figured it out and I'm totally used to it now and is by no means close to being a deal killer, is I never like headphone controls on the front panel. I've always preferred headphone controls on the top panel. On this mixer and the way it's laid out, it's slim, it's compact. There would be no reason to put those headphone controls on here. That would be a ridiculous design choice. So I totally see why they did it and I'm absolutely used to it now. You want this real estate to be able to handle the ISO knobs and to handle the line knobs. So no issue there. The other thing, headphone related, I would have loved to have seen is a proper split cue. I love having split cue on the Pioneers because a lot of times I play late at night. My wife's usually sleeping, my dogs are usually sleeping. I usually play pretty loud if I have the option. And split cue allows me to get that full kind of club monitoring. You know, if you don't know, split cue, by the way, is, you know, left ear would be the channel that you're queuing up, right ear would be the house. So it's very reminiscent of what you would get in a club, except it's all happening in your headphones. And I'm assuming it's probably just a cost measure. Again, $600 out the door. They you know, they would have had to change the price point on this thing if they added a split cue. I don't know for sure, but that would be my assumption. And then the last thing that took me a little getting used to, I run an RMX 1000, which is Pioneer's digital effects unit. It's very different running an RMX 1000 with a wet dry knob than it is running it with a punch in like you have on the 900 Nexus 2. I think primarily it's because there's an analog to digital back to analog conversion happening. So when I bring that up, what I'm saying is there's a slight delay or a phasing that happens with the wet dry. You can still absolutely use the RMX, and I would say the goods outweigh the bads, but I will also say it takes a little bit of getting used to, and you don't quite have the precision that you would have if it were an all digital workflow. But again, I run it, it's great, it was really fun. You'll notice I'm using it in my mix, I'm using it kind of sparingly. I'm not a huge effects guy anyway, but I do like to have the option. So that's a very short list of things I kind of dislike. And like I said, none of these are deal killers, and they all actually were design decisions that made sense to keep it within a certain price range and to also keep the ergonomics and the flow so it was friendly. So I guess if I were to wrap this up, I'd say this mixer is for the exact audience that I am, somebody who has limited experience on a rotary, but I also like to bring new gear into the studio sometimes because I find I build new skill sets that I don't normally focus on, and I just like learning new pieces of equipment too. And this is definitely something that requires a bit of a learning curve, but it's all good. And I found that I wouldn't say the rotary is more precise, but I would say it allows for a little bit more nuance to shape the sound. So with the ISO knobs, with the 3-band EQs, with the knobs instead of the line faders, I just find myself being a little more intentional with how I'm mixing and a little more caring with how I'm bringing in that second channel and how I'm bringing in different frequencies and how I'm pulling others out. And I think it's actually made me a little bit more intentional on my Pioneer, which I've been using for years. So I appreciate what this has done to my skill set. I'm actually honing a skill set that I didn't know I was kind of lacking, but obviously I am. So all up, like if you're on the fence, $600, I'd say jump on this thing. You won't regret it. I think the one thing that remains in question is the longevity of the build quality, because it is a $600 mixer. I don't know how long it's gonna last. I don't beat on my equipment. I treat it pretty gently, but that said, you know, you're moving knobs constantly when you're in the mix on this thing. So there may be some wiggle. I haven't seen it yet. Some of the knobs may lose some tension, but again, I've seen none of that. I've used it exclusively for the last month and a half, and it feels exactly how it felt when it came out of the box. But if you do have questions, by all means, feel free to reach out. Happy to answer questions about this mixer, about any of the gear that you see me use, or just DJing in general. I love to interact that way. Check back on our channel, our YouTube channel. We're always dropping new DJ mixes. There's gonna be some upcoming DJ interviews and guest mixes happening soon here. And look for some of our events as we roll out in spring, summertime. Until then, take care. Talk to you soon.